He's the author of Great Answers to Tough Questions at Work, published by Wiley.
The Express newspaper says every briefcase and bookshelf should have a copy.
The book has been endorsed by the Chartered Institute of Management, which is why you will see an emblem on the front saying Management Gold. Fantastic.
As a one-time political journalist from Australia and as a former foreign correspondent, he's been trained to ask the toughest possible questions. But he's here tonight to help us answer them.
He has put the principles of his book into action.
He is the one and only Michael Dodd.
Michael Dodd.
Imagine you have just given the best presentation of your life. They loved your stories. They laughed in all the right places. At times, they were a bit teary. And every person in the audience, except for one, gave you a thunderous standing ovation. And then it happened. The question and answer session. And sure enough, the microphone went to that one person who didn't stand up. And he asked you the worst possible question. It's the kind of question that you wake up the night before and said to yourself, I hope they don't ask me that. It happens in India too, sir. Amazing. So it's not just a British-Australian phenomenon. That's interesting. So thank you for coming all the way from India to tell us that. The president of the Speaking Association in India, no less.
Hi, my name is Martin Booth and I'm a former journalist, which meant I was particularly interested in the talk I just listened to by Michael Dodd about how to deal with difficult questions from the audience.
What is that question for you? Think about it. At some stage, we might even find out what it is. But the good news is, there's one thing we can guarantee about this session. It will be fun. Because what that actually means is it'll be fun for me, which is why I can guarantee it. Because I get to challenge you with your blowtorch-on-the-belly question. That's a technical term from the world of Australian journalism.
So I've just seen Michael Dodd giving a great talk about his answers to the blowtorch-on-the-belly questions, as he calls them. And it was really great talk. He gives a kind of formula as to how to answer questions.
The different structures you can put in place so that you can anticipate the difficult, awkward questions that come from the audience.
It's really useful for whether you're a high-up politician or a mere mortal like me.
There is some good news, and that is, however brilliant you are at answering tough questions, or however atrocious you are, by the end of this little session, you will be better placed. The key to this is to get across a message. Now, a really good answer does answer the question, but if it's a great answer, it tends to have a message. Typically, a positive message. Now, it doesn't have to be positive, it can be a negative message, but overwhelmingly, positive messages tend to work.
Michael Dodd gave a cracking session this afternoon, brilliant keynote. I got a really great tip, which was not necessarily worrying too much about the answer to the question, but to the message that you're trying to give across. And I thought that was fantastic advice to allow you to think about giving an appropriate answer to a really tough question.
So ask yourself the question, not what's the answer to the question, I've got to think of it. What's my opinion about Brexit? What am I going to say about this business person I've never heard of? Actually think, what is the best thing you can say on that topic? One of the crucial things in answering questions is to get into what I personally call outcome-focused communication. You want to be thinking about what is the result I want to have of this answer, just as you might think, what's the result I want to have? What do I want my audience thinking, doing, feeling at the end of my talk? Same for the answers. And every question, every heckle that comes to you is an opportunity for you to, in sporting terms, kick a goal in football or hit a goal in hockey, yeah? So every time it comes to you, I want you to take control, but take control of the language as well, so that you're kicking a goal
or hitting a hockey goal every time it comes to you.
And one of the ways you do that is to get across your message. And typically you want to have that message in your mind before you enter the potential lion's den of the Q&A. Okay, what does your audience need? Now your audience need clear, accurate information, yeah? And nothing other than an exact truth. You know, don't bend the truth to please them or because it'll catch up with you. I did a speech in Kansas City a little while ago, and around the breakfast table and at other times we were talking about a particular personality in America. And funnily enough, he's fairly well regarded these days, but he once said something which didn't seem to be true. He said something like, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky," right? And then there was all sorts of evidence, something to do with the dress and various things that Miss Lewinsky said and other things that kind of gave the impression that it wasn't true. Now, what do the media do in that instance? They play it again and again and again. What does your audience do if you make up something that isn't true? Next time you're up there, they will remind you. There's always someone there who'll sort of be in the front row, being quietly there, scratching their chin, and they'll come out and they'll strike. Yeah, and so, didn't you say last time this or whatever? So beware of that. You're going on the record, so own the exact truth.
And that's what you need to do when you're answering tough questions, but you can also do it in your talks as well. Yeah? Paint pictures in the minds of people so that they remember your message. So you've got the message, which is abstract, but you come down the ladder and you paint that picture in your minds.
Don't just think we want the facts, yeah? Because the facts can be a bit dull and dry. I mean, they can be fascinating facts, but they're not necessarily. So typically, in your great answer, you want a balance between some fact and emotion. If it's all facts, it's too dry and dusty, typically. If it's all emotion, it's kind of out of control. So what you want is a balance between the two. And how do you get that? Typically, it's in the story, yeah? So your real-life example can often touch on emotions and facts together. And that's a good thing for giving a great answer. Now, the other thing I want to do, just to conclude on a positive, is to take you back to a negative. Back in the days when I lived in a place called Australia, there was a situation where the Department of Education had a bit of a crisis on their hands because they had printed the equivalent of the A-level exams, the higher school certificate in New South Wales, and lots of them were stolen. And some of them were being sold on the street to interested parties before the exams had taken place. And there was a very memorable cartoon on the front of the Sydney Morning Herald. And in the cartoon, there was a kid who was drawn in such a way as in less politically correct times, you would call him a dunce. Yeah? Not looking very bright. But he wasn't that dumb because he's going up in the cartoon to someone who's selling the exam papers on the street corner and he says, "I know you want $50 for the questions. How much do you want for the answers?" And he knew that the answers were more important than the question, and you know that however tough, mean, nasty, ignorant the questions are, they will always be trumped by a well thought out, well planned, well delivered answer. And who controls the answers? You do. All the best to them.
Thank you ever so much.
I would thoroughly recommend booking Michael if you need to get answers to difficult questions.
If you've not seen Michael Dodd speak, you should certainly get along to one of his gigs soon because he's an absolute cracker.
Very useful. Thank you very much, Michael.